It's one of the most heart-wrenching questions that pierces the soul. Why does it seem like the more good you do for people, the more they repay you with pain, betrayal, or silence? You give your time, your kindness, your help, even your heart, only to be misunderstood, taken for granted, or outright used. It feels unfair. It feels like a betrayal not just by people but by life itself. And if you're honest, sometimes it makes you want to stop doing good altogether. You start questioning your worth, your kindness, and even the voice that told you to help them in the first place. But before you let that bitterness take root, pause. What if the problem isn't that you're doing wrong, but that you're doing right in a world that often doesn't know how to handle light? Sometimes goodness reveals what's broken in others. Your patience exposes their impatience. Your loyalty reflects their disloyalty. Your sacrifices highlight their selfishness. And instead of facing themselves, some people turn against you. It's not always about you. It's about what your goodness stirs up in their conscience. Doing good is like holding up a mirror, and not everyone likes what they see. So they reject the mirror, even if that mirror was the kindest person they knew, you. Other times, pain comes because expectations silently attach themselves to kindness. You didn't mean to expect a thank you, but you did. You didn't mean to expect loyalty in return, but your heart hoped for it. And when it didn't come, the good you did suddenly felt heavy, even hollow. But hear this. Your goodness is never wasted. The seeds you plant in people, even the ones who turn away, are still seeds. They may not bloom where you planted them, but they might bloom later in someone else's garden, in a way you'll never see. And that's okay, because real goodness doesn't live for applause. It lives because love is who you are, not what you get. There's a silent ache that lives in the hearts of people who love deeply. The ones who stay up late listening to someone else's pain, who give without keeping score, who forgive even when the apology never comes. These people are called kind, but often they're also called weak, too soft, or too emotional. And sadly, they're the ones who get hurt the most. You try to be strong, to smile through it, to tell yourself, maybe they didn't mean it that way, or maybe I expected too much. But the truth is, you're tired. Tired of always being the bigger person. Tired of showing up for people who disappear when it's your turn to need someone. Tired of giving love to those who treat it like it's cheap. You wonder, does anyone ever love like I do? But here's the hard truth. The world often misunderstands genuine love. We live in a time where people mistake self-protection for strength, detachment for peace, and silence for power. So when someone like you walks in, gentle, real, giving, you don't fit the pattern. And instead of embracing your light, it's one of the most heart-wrenching questions that pierces the soul. Why does it seem like the more some people either abuse it or run from it? You didn't do wrong. You did different. And sometimes, being different means being rejected. Not because you're not enough, but because your presence confronts what others have spent years trying to hide. Their fear of vulnerability, their inability to give, their unresolved wounds. And yes, it hurts. It hurts when you show up fully, only to be met with half love. It hurts when you expect honesty and get games instead. But hear me, your heart is not the problem. Your kindness is not a flaw. Your love is not too much. It's just rare, and rare things are often mishandled before they are valued. You might ask yourself, if God is watching, why would he let people hurt me for doing what's right? It's a fair question, one that many believers have asked in silence, afraid to admit their pain might look like doubt. But here's the truth. Even the most faithful were wounded for their goodness. Look through the Bible, and you'll see a pattern, not of comfort but of cost. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers after he dreamed. David was hunted by the very king he served faithfully. Jesus, the embodiment of pure love, was hated, mocked, beaten, and crucified, not because he did evil, but because he did too much good for a world that wasn't ready for it. The Bible never promises that doing good will guarantee easy relationships or applause from people. In fact, Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." That verse exists because God knew you'd feel like giving up. He knew you'd be tempted to say, "Forget it. People don't deserve my love." He knew your kindness would be misunderstood and your patience would be stretched thin. And yet he still said, don't stop. Why? Because doing good isn't just about others. It's about who you're becoming. Every time you choose love over retaliation, forgiveness over pride, patience over resentment, you're planting something eternal in a world full of temporary. Yes, people may hurt you in return, but God never forgets a single act of love you give, especially when it costs you something. Heaven keeps better records than people do. It's easy to question the value of goodness when all you seem to get in return is heartache. You look at others, colder, tougher, more guarded, and wonder if they've figured out something you haven't. They don't give much, and they don't seem to get hurt as much either. Maybe you think, if I stopped caring so much, I'd stop hurting. But that's not your nature. You're built to love. You're wired to give. Your heart wasn't made for walls. It was made for bridges. And even though people have burned those bridges, you keep building them. And maybe that's where your pain lives, in the rebuilding, in trying again, in not letting what others did to you change who you are. But the emotional toll is real. It's the ache in your chest when someone you helped ghosted you. It's the quiet disappointment when you show up for someone and they don't even notice. It's the tear that falls when you realize they only came to you for what you could offer, not for who you are. And it's worse when it comes from people you never expected it from. Family, close friends, even fellow believers. The betrayal cuts deeper because it's not just about what they did. It's about what they meant to you. And sometimes the healing feels slower because you keep replaying the memories. Not just the hurtful ones, but the good ones too. The times you laughed together. The times you showed up for them. The times they said they cared. Were any of those moments real? You wonder. Or were you just convenient? But here's something you need to know. Being used doesn't mean you were useless. In fact, it means the opposite. It means you had value. People don't take what has no worth. Yes, it's a hard truth. And no, it doesn't make the pain go away. But it reframes the story. You weren't a fool for loving. You weren't weak for caring. You were strong enough to give even when it cost you. That's not naivety. That's character. That's maturity. That's strength. Some people either abuse it or run from it. You didn't do wrong. You did different. And sometimes, being different. But here's something you need to know. Being used doesn't mean you were useless. In fact, it means the opposite. It means you had value. People don't take what has no worth. Yes, it's a hard truth. And no, it doesn't make the pain go away. But it reframes the story. You weren't a fool for loving. You weren't weak for caring. You were strong enough to give even when it cost you. That's not naivety. That's character. That's maturity. That's strength. There's a sacred kind of growth that comes through wounds. Not the kind the world celebrates, but the kind heaven honors. You become more discerning. You begin to recognize red flags. You learn to love without losing yourself. You start to listen to the whisper of wisdom that says, guard your heart, but don't harden it. You finally understand that doing good doesn't mean giving people unchecked access to hurt you. Boundaries don't make you less Christian. They make you healthy. Even Jesus walked away from people. Even he protected his peace. Loving like Christ means knowing when to turn the other cheek and when to shake the dust off your feet. So what do you do now? Do you stop doing good? No. But you grow. You give from a healed place, not a desperate one. You help without attaching your identity to the outcome. You stop expecting broken people to carry your worth, and you place your trust in the one who sees it all. Because for every person who took advantage of your heart, God saw. For every tear you cried in silence, he listened. For every silent sacrifice you made that went unnoticed by people, heaven took note. And there's a promise, one you might need to hear today. It's found in Hebrews 6:10. God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. Your reward isn't always here. Sometimes it's peace. Sometimes it's healing. Sometimes it's in the unseen impact you made in someone's life. And sometimes it's a crown waiting for you in eternity. But whatever form it takes, your good is never wasted. Not in God's economy. Keep your heart soft. Not for them, but for you. Because bitterness is too heavy a burden to carry for a soul made to fly. Forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you do. You deserve peace. You deserve freedom. You deserve to keep walking in love, even when the world doesn't understand it. Because love is who you are, and the world needs more of it, even if it doesn't always know how to receive it. But here's something